Happy New Year! I know it's a lot later in the day than people generally tend to share that greeting, but I did not stay up until midnight, and then today I actually spent out at the Chuangyan Monastery in Carmel, New York, for their interfaith prayer for peace. And that's what you're seeing a picture of here, although um, this hall has been rearranged since the actual event because I waited until there were not a couple of hundred people milling around to go back in and get a picture, and I was crossing my fingers that the banners would still be up, and they were, because I knew that they are very, very efficient there. So now instead of a whole bunch of chairs facing the front and big long tables with everybody who was there from all different faiths, all across the front, like a couple of panels. All that's gone, and now they're set up for meditation and then their evening chanting and prayer. So it was also impossible to get no people in the picture, but I did at least wait until I was only getting the back of people's heads. Um, so yes, the decoration is actually very similar to what I remember from last year with the Inner Peace, World Peace banners. Um, and they had a really great array of people presenting or leading as they did last year. I don't remember if all were the same, but quite a few were. Some have actually been involved right from the get-go, which this has been for, nobody was sure if it started in 98 or 99, so 17 or 18 years. So this was the program. I got there a little late, so this was the blown up, posted on the wall version of the program. And sorry that it's so beiged out, but that's what happens when you take a picture with a tablet that has no flash. But it shows the range of faiths that were represented. Obviously, being that it was at a Buddhist monastery, there are quite a few Buddhist representatives. Um, but we did have the town of Kent supervisor speak, and I thought that was very interesting. She apparently, in sharing some thoughts about how you promote peace, talked about when she first came into that role and the way that people could voice any of their concerns was apparently very strictly regulated, and you could only bring up certain things at, I guess, town meetings or whatever, and you could only speak for a certain amount of time. And she decided to do away with all of that and was told, no, no, no. Basically, though she didn't put it this way, this is going to turn into a Parks and Rec episode if you do that. Um, but to her pleasant, not well, the surprise of everybody else, and to pretty much what she expected, people were respectful, but they did bring up other things that hadn't been allowed to be brought up that they did care about and wanted to address. Um, so I thought that was interesting to bring in right at the beginning. I don't remember what everybody said, so while this will be probably the most chatty slide, it won't be anywhere near as long as the 2 hours that this service was. Um, Dr. Hallenbeck, whose name I am probably mispronouncing, sorry, apparently was involved in the institution of this Interfaith Day for Prayer way back at the beginning. And the thing that I remember from his what he had to say was that, and I know he was quoting somebody else, but I didn't catch that part, but that there is no way to peace. Peace is the way. And I thought that was a very interesting thing to ponder about. It really, it's not quite along the lines of a Zen koan, but it is definitely something to think about as you pick apart those words and what does that really mean. Um, I know that Father Keene and Sister Marianne Lipetsky both spoke about Pope Francis's encyclical a bit. Um, and which had called for interfaith cooperation and that sort of thing, which I thought was great to bring in. I don't remember what Venerable Fa had to say. Um, I know that both of the rabbis shared very different things. Um, Rabbi Spondek spoke about a group of students that he had taken to Kiev, and they had asked him a question. They were on the site of actually where a massacre had occurred against Jewish people, and they asked him what he would do if the group of them standing there found themselves in that same situation. And he brought the answer that he came up with. He said was not satisfying to him, and he's not sure there is an answer that you could ever come up with that would be satisfying to that. But that it's important to think about how we respond when there is somebody who wants to kill you. How do you respond in a way that can promote peace, while not simply lying down and dying and just saying, sure, go ahead and kill me. Um, so that was good food for thought. Um, Venerable Nagaki mentioned that the year that we're going into, whether you mark the start of the year now or in a few weeks, is the year of the monkey. And that makes him think about the hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil monkeys. And he kind of unpacked a little bit about how you can think about that, which I thought was very interesting. That perhaps it's not that you don't see the evil, but you don't allow yourself to become distracted by things that you don't need to see, so you can focus on what you do need to see. Not that you don't hear any evil, but that you don't become distracted by things other than what you need to be focusing on. And same with speech. Make sure that what you say is exactly what you need to say and not just babble, which is probably something I should listen to, as I'm kind of getting towards babbling at the moment. Um, but I thought that was a very interesting take on that as well. Um, the Muslim chaplain, I do remember her from last year. I remember very much enjoying her, what she had to say last year. And you can tell I'm struggling with, because not everything was necessarily a prayer, but it wasn't necessarily a presentation. So I'm struggling with what vocabulary to use here. But in her case, part of what she shared was a poem this year, which was incredibly moving. And I'm going to go Google her and see if maybe she has a blog somewhere where maybe she's put it up, because it really spoke to me, and I would love to be able to read it, and maybe ponder on it some more. Because sadly, I did not retain any specific lines, unfortunately. Um, and the Venerable Bodhi led a very profound meditation at the end, I thought. And it's not the sort of meditation that typically is done in Buddhist settings, or at least that has not been my experience. It's actually more of what I might expect in a pagan or New Age guided meditation. Not to say that Buddhists don't use imagery for meditation, but this was just very different from anything I'd experienced in that context. And I imagine that's partly because he was trying to make it as broadly applicable as possible. And he had us think about, picture the world in just floating in space, and then picture these dark clouds around it formed by war, by oppression, by pollution, and then picturing a ball of light shining on the earth, and in the ball of light there's the scales of justice and a dove of peace, and then the ball with these images descends and disperses all of those clouds, And then he called upon us to sort of um, nurture the desire for peace and justice in our hearts. And what I ended up thinking of was just picturing that image he had created for us right inside my heart chakra. And now I kind of want to try and draw that. But if I do try to draw that, that will probably end in tears because I'm a perfectionist and not a particularly strong artist. So that is probably not going to happen. But I did find it a really beautiful and moving meditation. And the chanting was also lovely at the end. And wow, this slide alone is already approaching 9 minutes. So how about I click onward? This is just a shot I took specifically for someone who knows exactly who she is, so that she could see her friend the big giant bell. Sorry that it's a bit off center, but I could not get any shots of it without people, and so I ended up having to crop them out. I was going to wait a little longer because who was in the frame at this point was small children who had run out of patience and were tumbling around. But then, just as I was thinking, oh, I'll wait a little longer, I got a battery warning. So I went ahead, took the picture, and just cropped them out. And I know they did not ring this today. I think they do ring it at the Chinese New Year, though, if I'm not mistaken. And then I had this wonderful idea of what I was going to do as I came in today. I was going to actually take video coming up this beautiful walkway that they have coming up to the Great Buddha Hall, which if you look inside that circular window, you can almost see the giant Buddha statue that is inside there. But as I mentioned earlier, I was running late, so that didn't happen. And by this point, I'm now getting 4% battery warnings, so there was no video happening. I just decided, okay, then I'll take a couple of stills. And so this is me leaving. And then down at the end of said walkway. And then from there, just headed off to the car. Anyway, I just wanted to share this because I thought it was a really great way to start the year, focusing on bringing people together from different backgrounds with a common goal. We want world peace, and finding a way to articulate that and bring it together in a cohesive way, and sort of showing in microcosm that yes, it is actually possible. And so yeah, and also just the grounds are extremely beautiful, even with all the leaves off the trees, so had to share that little bit as well. So, to sum up, Happy New Year, let there be peace on earth, and see you again soon.